Type 1's holy idea is perfection. What that means is type 1s have forgotten that perfection already exists, that the divine is perfect in all he or she does, that there is an order to things, but that it's maintained by the divine, not by the human. So when type 1s remember everything is already as it should be, it is handled, they can stop feeling the compulsion to fix everything, and then they rest in their virtue, which is serenity. Now, please don't hear me say that a 1 who is healthy and remembers in divine perfection never works to make things better. But the working isn't fueled by a compulsion of I have to bring about perfection. It's fueled by a peace that rests in the divine perfection and is simply joining up and working with that divine perfection. Type 2's holy idea is holy will and freedom. It's almost like holy will being holy desire. You know how they say like the will of God, the desire of God, his will, right? So when type 2s forget that there is a holy will, that there is a desire of the divine to provide, to bring about, then type 2s can rest in freedom. Freely I've received, freely I give. It's not my will be done, but thy will be done. I remember there is a holy will. There is a holy will that is active in the world, providing for the needs of others. So when type 2s rest and remember that holy idea, then the virtue of humility is present. And humility means I am not the source of everyone's needs. There is a holy will. There is a will of God that will be done, thy will be done, and will provide for others. For type 3s, the holy idea is hope. Hope. 3s forget that there is an eternal hope. And when 3s forget that there is an eternal hope, much like the 1s and the 2s and every number, they think, well, I must bring hope to others. And the way that I bring hope to others is I do all the things. I will take action on this. I will make this a success. People will feel hopeful when we succeed. And 3s confuse hope with success. Because, oh, well, succeeding, looking good brings people hope. Now, when 3s remember that there is an eternal hope, then they move into what's called veracity, which is simply truth, authenticity, right? 3s can couple with the eternal hope, can do lots of amazing things, but in truth, in authenticity, without having to deceive, because there is an eternal hope. We don't have to make it ourselves. We don't have to stir it up ourselves. We rest in an eternal hope, making us, allowing us to have truth and authenticity. So you see how the holy idea produces the virtue when it's remembered and rested in. Type 4s. The holy idea for type 4s is origin. This one was tricky for me because I wasn't sure what origin meant. And as I was digging through it, it basically means that there is a divine creator who originated each person and fills them with purpose and meaning, right? Like if you just existed and nobody created you, nobody pulled you into being, nobody intelligently designed you, then you're kind of lost. You're kind of the odd one out, a missing piece that doesn't belong to anything. But when 4s remember their origin, when 4s remember that there's an originator, a creator, you came from something. We all have a designated purpose and meaning. Then when 4s rest in that, what comes is equanimity, which is emotional balance, the ability to hold all emotions without being dominated by any one emotion. This emotional balance comes when fours feel safe and secure as being originated by a loving source. And if someone who is loving and all wise and all knowing and all these great things that we rest in the divine as being, if that created you, then my friend, there is nothing missing. There is nothing wrong with you. There is no inherent flaw. God doesn't do bad work. And so when fours rest in that, then they realize their gift is to bring emotional balance, equanimity to the world. All right, let's move to fives. Fives' holy idea is omniscience, all-knowing, knowing all. When fives realize that the divine knows all, that there is no mystery or shadow in God, in divine, then they can walk through life with non-attachment. And what this means is it's like a clarity of thought that is not bogged down and attached to either emotions or clouded with false thinking. It's like I picture it like a rising above the clouds. You know, when you're flying in an airplane and you're in the clouds, you can't really see clearly. And as soon as you get above that cloud line, it's all so clear. Usually fives are very bogged down in the weeds of researching and knowing and making sure they have all that they need. But when they rest in the fact that there is an all-knowing, then their virtue is that they can fly high. They are not attached. They are not bogged down. They are not in confusion. They are not in panic. They are not trying to hoard. They are free. And that is the virtue that springs up out of the holy idea, remembering the holy idea that there is an omniscient who knows all. Type 6's holy idea is faith. Faith. When 6's forget that there is a faithful one, that there is a faithful force that is upholding and supporting all. When they forget that, then 6's feel like I must provide the safety, or I must find the safety outside of myself, in a leader, in a community, because I've forgotten that there's a faithful one. I've forgotten that there's a rock of ages. When 6's remember that holy idea, then they can become a source of courage. Their virtue is courage. Because 6's are so interesting. They were created with eyes wide open, in the sense that they see everything. Like, they see what could come. They see what's happening over here. They see how this could be connected to that and how this could end up here. They see it all. And if they cannot remember that there is a faithful one, that there is faith in the world, in the divine, if they're not resting there, then that eyes wide open turns courage into fear, turns faith into anxiety. And again, there's nothing wrong with being eyes wide open, because they were meant to be a source of courage to the world. The guy who I want on my side is the Navy SEAL who knows where all the exits are, who sees where all the potential threats are, right? Like, seeing is not the problem. It's the forgetting that there is a faithful one that doesn't allow 6's to have the courage that they were meant to have. All right, type 7's. Type 7's, their holy idea is wisdom. This one's a little tricky also. Wisdom is different than just knowing. Wisdom is knowledge applied. Wisdom is knowledge in action. If I know I should save money, that's one thing. If I actually save money, that's wisdom, because I put into practice the thing that I know is true. So 7's, being an aggressive number, being a number that does a lot, probably the most of any number maybe, they are constantly doing. They have to remember that there is a wisdom that they can rest in and trust in, that holds all, that provides all, that can be depended on. And when 7's rest in that eternal wisdom, then they can have the virtue of sobriety. And a lot of times we think of sobriety as like being sober, I don't drink at all. Like, it kind of has connotations with alcohol. That's not what sobriety means. Abstinence means I don't drink at all. Sobriety means I can drink without going into intoxication. Sobriety is the midpoint between abstinence and intoxication. And so when sevens rest in an eternal wisdom, then they are single-minded rather than constantly finding what's next. What do I want to do next? I only want to feel one spectrum of my emotions, the joyful spectrum. Sevens are able to stop and rest and sit in sobriety, sit in satisfaction. That's the virtue that comes when they remember wisdom. Eights, their holy idea is truth. I added to this justice. Truth and justice. In my mind, they're kind of the same. When you walk in truth, you do what is just. And so when eights remember that there is divine truth, then they can walk in innocence. Innocence is the virtue of type eights. And what innocence means is that they come freshly to every situation without agenda, right? You think of like an innocent person, they just kind of come in and they don't have preconceived ideas. They're not like walls up, like ready for anything. They're just kind of coming in trusting. Like I can come open-handed and rest that there is a justice that will be taken care of because there's a divine justice. So now I don't have to be responsible for bringing about justice myself. When eights can't rest in that, then they feel like I must bring it. It doesn't mean that eights can never fight for justice. It just means that they're fighting for it while still resting in divine justice. Finally, type nines, their holy idea is love. It's love. And when type nines believe that there is divine love, they don't have to feel like they have to orchestrate it themselves by disappearing. So that's, again, similar to all these other numbers. When we forget that there's a divine source of all these things, we think we have to be the source. So if nines have to be the source of everyone feeling valued and loved, then they just, we'll do your thing. Whatever you want, whatever makes you feel special, whatever makes you feel good. I'm going to try and offer you love, kind of similar to type twos. They often get mistaken for one another. I'm going to try and make you feel loved by completely diminishing myself. The problem is the love that people need will take everything out of you because you can't provide divine love. Divine love is way too big. It's way too abundant. It's way too magnanimous for one person to try and step into those shoes and fulfill it. So type nines, when you remember that there is a divine love that's not only big enough to provide love for everyone around you, but is big enough to love you too, then nines step into that truth that I matter too. I'm not trying to be the source of love. There is a source of love. I can partner with it. I can be a reconciler. I can move into action and show love to others by putting them first or doing whatever it is. But I'm partnering with divine love, not trying to replace it. And when nines do that, then their virtue is action. Nines can move into action because they no longer feel the crippling responsibility to be the source of love for everyone. They're free to move into action, to love as many people as they can, trusting in a greater, more abundant divine love to fill up what they lack.